Good morning, viewers, and a very warm welcome to this latest episode of Leaderspeak. We have a special guest with us today. Caroline Rowe is a Senior Account Director at APCO Worldwide's Riyadh office, and she brings to this role deep experience in communications and marketing for travel, tourism, and hospitality clients. Prior to joining APCO, Caroline gathered 17 years of experience in marketing and communications, primarily for world-leading travel, tourism, and hospitality brands. She has lived in Shanghai, San Francisco, New Delhi, and Dubai. And she has helped guide the communication strategies of multiple destinations and properties, stretching all the way from Las Vegas to Bangkok. Caroline is a former member of the board of the British Business Group for Dubai and the Northern Emirates, based in the British Embassy, and the former president of the Oxford and Cambridge Society of Shanghai. Caroline graduated with a degree in modern history from Oxford University in the UK. She has received several accolades for her work, including being listed in Hotelier magazine's top 25 women in the Middle East. Welcome, Caroline.
It's good to be with you today, Mayank.
Yeah, the pleasure is all ours, Caroline. As your resume states, you have a lot of experience in travel, tourism, marketing, communication. And I guess countries who are going through this COVID-19 pandemic can really benefit from your experience. So if you can start with the impact, I mean, when you look around the region and you've done a lot of work in this field, what is the impact that, most countries have pegged their GDP numbers on tourism, travel, like countries like Oman, they already have. So what is going to be the impact of this whole crisis on economic growth for the region and particularly for Oman?
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't think that this crisis can in any way be underestimated. This is the single most impactful circumstance which has occurred outside a war that could have possibly occurred. We've got a global decline in the travel and tourism industry of between 60 and 80%, depending on when this finishes, because of course, this is a live event. We don't know when this is going to actually finish. And at the moment, the figures for the UAE are a loss of $15 billion US. So that's a 70% drop on what tourism brings in. I think it's important to remember, people tend to think of tourism as, the airlines and the hotels. But if you take a walk through Dubai Mall at the moment, you will notice that those big tour groups are not there. The people who normally come to see the Dubai fountains, and then they'll stop for lunch, they'll have coffee in the morning, they'll buy gifts. So a lot of the revenue is lost through other means, through activities, through shopping, and through entertainment. So it's a massive impact on the economy. And then of course, I speak to Dubai, where I'm sitting at the moment. I'm unfortunately stuck outside Riyadh. But you also have then those cabin crew, those waiters, those pilots who are not going out and spending as they normally would either. So there is a knock-on impact on the rest of the economy. So it's really impossible to underestimate this. But I think also that we are now seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. We're seeing some countries starting to reopen. We have dates, so 7th of July is the big date for Dubai. Tourists are starting to come back to us in a very safe and a very controlled manner. And so I think now is the time to not dwell on what has happened before, but to focus on recovery and how we can get back to those levels of tourism that we had before, and potentially to even stop and reassess and improve what we've been doing before and make it even better this time around.
Sure. I mean, those are really scary figures that you have quoted, 60 to 80% decline and multiple $1 billion of impact. Now, countries still need to maintain that emotional connect with tourists, despite whatever the times may be. In what ways are countries trying to do that, to keep that messaging going and still trying to reach out to their target audience?
I think that's a really, really good point that you bring up, Mayank. I think we actually have an unprecedented opportunity right now to be communicating with our audiences. So what you have is a huge increase in screen time. People are not able to go outside and do the activities that they had before. So they are spending many more hours a day on their laptops, on their iPads, on their phones, watching the Netflix on TV, watching the YouTube on TV. So we have much more access to consumers than we've ever had before. So whereas somebody might previously have skipped over an advert, they might now watch it. I was actually sitting watching YouTube last night, some British comedy shows, and up popped an advert for Egypt tourism. And it was a beautiful long form advert. So it was not a short little sort of just catch your attention advert, because they have an awareness that I have the time to sit down and listen to a 1:30 or 2 minute long advert. And it was all about how the cleanliness is there and how Egypt is waiting for us to come and rediscover. So I think that a lot of countries around the world are doing really phenomenal things with actually spending the time for educating their audience, for getting their audience to sort of really connect with them on a very, very emotional level. One of our clients at APCO is Visit Mexico. And there's a very beautiful campaign that's being put out globally across different markets. And what they've done is they have spoken directly to those local markets. So for the Australia campaign, it's very, very interesting. They have somebody talking about, you know, you can come and enjoy our churros instead of your lamingtons. So they've localized the conversation between Australia and Mexico, and they've really made a very, very nice emotional connection, that, okay, you're back home in Australia right now, but when you're ready to come back to Mexico, when you're ready to travel again, come back to see us and we're waiting for you. And it creates a real emotional connection with that city. Greece is another place that has done a beautiful advertising campaign. So it's a very simple 40-second advert, which is getting really good reviews around the world, saying Greek summer is a state of mind. So it's not that you can't come here and therefore you can't experience Greece. Actually, you could think in that state of mind that last time you came to Greece, you had this relaxed feeling, you had this this feeling of being with friends and family. And this is something that can come back to you for the 40 seconds of that video. Or maybe you can do a Greek party at your house tonight, and it just really cements the emotional connection between the destination and the people on the other side of the screen. So I think it's now that we have an important time, and this is something that I think Oman can also take up on, but they have a real opportunity to connect one-to-one with the people around the world without actually having to get them there. Something else which I must mention as well is virtual tourism. So you will see many of the museums around the world, many of the sites around the world. I mean, Al-Ula in Saudi Arabia has done a beautiful sub-website where you can go and you can almost walk through the actual sites themselves. And I think that the opportunity that we have is really to cement yourself as that one place that you want to go after this is all over. So I think it's very, very important to create that emotional connection now, and we have the opportunity to do it.
Sure, Caroline. I mean, you have spoken very eloquently and very strongly for this need for emotional connect. But you know, this is uncharted territory for most countries. I mean, because the effort has always been to get physically people here. Now you're saying give them a virtual experience, and you cited the cases of what Australia has done, and even Greece and Mexico. Then what has worked and what doesn't work? I mean, what if there were regulators or people from the tourism industry, what would be your advice to them that, guys, if you're going to give a virtual experience, these are the do's and these are the don'ts?
I think that you must give a very genuine experience to people. I think that is always something that you should do in marketing, in communications. You always need to put yourself in the shoes of your target audience. So for me, I think it's important that you don't go out there and say, I have seen some, which I will not name, where they've said, okay, we've got this fabulous virtual experience. But when you go in, you just sort of stand and you look around the exhibits in the museum and you can't read the plaques, and it's been done in a rush. It's not been done in a genuine way. It's been done in, okay, I think everybody else is doing a virtual walkthrough, so I have to do one too. So I think whatever you do, it's really important to sit down and think about who you are as a destination. You know, for me, Oman takes a little bit longer to get to know. So I think that this kind of activity is the perfect opportunity. For me, I think if you see an image of the rocks and the mountain formations in Oman, it says nothing. You know, it says, okay, we've got a lot of rocks here. When you actually visit Oman, as I did just before literally just before the pandemic happened, you realize that what Oman is really all about is the people, is the warmth, is the laid back attitude, is the sea. It's not a picture of a mountain. It's an emotion. So I think it's very important for destinations to be genuine at this time, to make a connection with the people, to think about doing maybe one thing really, really well instead of just ticking a list, and ensuring that they genuinely open their hearts to people from across the world, because this is an opportunity to welcome them in. So they may put it in the back of their mind that, okay, when this pandemic is over, I'll come. Maybe it'll be 2 years or 3 years down the line, but they will have a feeling that, I don't know why, but I love Oman. And I think that's what all destinations need to work on at the moment, being very genuine and having a one-to-one conversation. Social media allows us to do this. So this is not a billboard on a road which you drive past and you see for half a second. This is an opportunity for your people to directly speak with the people around the world who are thinking of coming to you. So I think that genuineness is the key thing that needs to be done.
Sure. And you mentioned that, you know, you can give a virtual experience, but you know, it's at the end of the day, it's about money for the country, whether it's for the UAE or Oman. And like you mentioned, that you never know when this tourist is going to come back. When are they going to come back? Is it going to be 2 years or 3 years? Is there any way that you can start monetizing this opportunity when you're saying a virtual experience? Is that, or it's just an investment in the future?
I think there is a difference between branding, brand creation, and between sales and marketing, which has a call to action. Now, if your borders are closed, you have no opportunity for an immediate call to action. But you do have an opportunity to influence people's decisions. So I think it's incredibly important that this conversation continues, because you must look around the world and see that Egypt and Greece and Las Vegas and Mexico are all creating these emotional connections. Going on a holiday is an emotion. It's not something that you look online and you decide where the cheapest flight is. Okay, the cheapest flight is to, you know, I live in Manchester and the cheapest flight's to London, therefore I'm going to go to London on holiday. You know, that's not the decision that you make. You make a decision that I've worked hard all year, I deserve to relax, I want to be in the great outdoors, I'm going to look for beautiful beaches. And then you go back in your mind to perhaps a TV show that you saw where they were exploring this place with this phenomenal beaches, and that's where I really want to go. You know, we did a piece of research actually. We looked at around 150 articles from around the world, and this is an APCO insights research that we did, and we found that around 7% of the articles were talking about bucket list travel. So while somebody can't even leave their house, they're still in the back of their mind making a list of the top 5 places they want to go before they die, you know? And I think that this crisis that we've gone through, when we've all been stuck at home, has afforded us all time to think. It's afforded us all time to decide what's important to us. You know, are we going to take a quick holiday away without thinking about it? No, I've been thinking about it for months. I know where my top 10 places are that I want to go, and I'm sure that most people around the world do. So creating that emotional connection, creating that brand, creating that impression in the mind is so important. And then as we start to reopen, we start to come towards more practical considerations, such as cost and cleanliness, which we can discuss as well.
Sure. No, we'll touch upon that also. Now, we are seeing across Europe, countries are gradually opening up. They're saying that we are opening our borders, visa restrictions are being relaxed. I mean, in what ways can countries open up? Which are the countries which are opening up as of now? And how can this be communicated in the right fashion?
Well, we have a lot of countries that are very reliant on tourism that are opening up at the moment. I mean, I believe that by September 1st, most of the world will be reopened to tourism. That's my personal belief. There may be countries that are having specific issues that decide to keep their borders closed, that are a little less reliant on tourism, that decide to take the safe step. But I mean, if you take a look now, as I said, Dubai is reopening on the 7th of July. The Maldives has already reopened in part. Tanzania has reopened. You're already seeing these places. Now that's the first step, right, is that the borders are reopened. The next step is that the airlines need to start flying. So you're seeing Emirates launching 24 new destinations in the next week. So those are places that, you know, for example, a Dubai expatriate can get to, and also the UK has left its flights mainly open, actually. So there's a lot of places that we can get to and that we can visit. And I think that we can also discuss what measures these countries are putting in place to really attract people, because now we're talking about the call to action. We're talking about, okay, what's actually going to get someone to book a hotel or a holiday right now? And that's the period that we're starting to move into as we reopen very, very rapidly throughout at least the first month of July, the first 2 weeks of July. That's when the world is reopening to travel. So that's the time to bring in your immediate call to action.
If you were to look at this from Oman's perspective, and if Oman were to communicate that we are going to be open to business in the next few months, what is that they can possibly communicate as their differentiation, and how can they attract tourists?
I think Oman has some phenomenal natural attractions, and I think that's the key thing to really communicate. Of all of the topics that we researched at APCO Insights, we found that the number one concern or the number one discussion point for people was around wide open spaces, privacy, sustainable travel. So around 22% of people are discussing this as a primary concern. People have been inside their houses for 2, 3, 4 months. They want to go outside. They want to breathe the fresh air. They want to feel the waves under their feet as they walk on the beach. They want to be in a place that is not crowded. They don't want to be inside. They want to be outside. They want to be able to hike, to feel the air in their lungs again. So I think that that's where Oman is specifically well positioned, is that great vast amount of natural beauty. It has the seaside, it has the sunshine, it has the freshness of the monsoon season, it has the mountains where people can hike. So I think those are all things that you can never have in a city or inside your own house. So I think for me, those are the real selling points of Oman. I think also Oman must not underestimate its place in the GCC. It will take longer for people to be comfortable with long haul travel. So getting to someone to come from the US to Muscat is going to be a longer term solution. It is not going to happen immediately. However, getting someone who's been stuck in Manama, or who's been stuck in Dubai or in Abu Dhabi to take a quick short flight with airlines that they feel safe with in an area that they know and they're comfortable with, and come down and experience the south of Oman with its beautiful monsoon season and freshness. I think that is a very easy sell. And I think if Oman was to open tomorrow, that would be my key focus. I have to just bring up one thing. There was a campaign launched, I think last night, called Tanafas in Saudi Arabia, which means to breathe. So this is the summer tourism campaign for Saudi Arabia. This is focused on domestic tourism, but it's exactly the same concept of what you have in Oman. So it's about taking people outside, taking them to the mountain regions like Abba, taking them into the great outdoors to feel the sunshine on their face, and to really feel alive and at one with nature again. So this is the campaign which was just launched for Saudi tourism literally last night. And I think that this is exactly the kind of messaging that Oman needs. I think that they should be speaking to Jordanians, to Saudis, to Emirati audiences and expats in all of those countries as well, and saying, hey, we're a 40-minute flight or an hour and a half flight away. And we have all of this at your doorstep. Come and really explore genuine culture and the outdoors, and get back out for a long weekend, which is not a big commitment for people, and really get back out into nature.
Oh, that's a wonderful insight, and I guess I'm sure policymakers should start looking at what you've suggested. Now, irrespective of what you do, when you open up your borders and you want to attract tourists, there's still a lot of fear when it comes to traveling, when it comes to going to a new destination. So you're still fearful. So that reassurance has to be given to the tourists that we are safe to travel. So one is, how can you go about enticing them? And secondly, what are the precautions? What are the safety measures that needs to be in place?
I mean, I think that's a very, very good point, that we're now moving from those emotional connections which have been made to practical considerations, right? So I think in terms of cleanliness and safety, this is at the foremost of people's mind. We found that 13% of the articles we looked at were considering this as a primary concern. And you have bodies like the UN, WTO, who are very much focused on putting in place guidelines for travel, for hotels. And then I think also, in Oman, you have some of the world's best hotel chains. These are your partners, and you're doing this together, right? So as you speak to the teams at the Shangri-La hotels, which you have, they have global campaigns coming in as well in terms of their cleanliness and their systems and procedures that they put in place. So I think that you rely on those partners. Marriott has it, Shangri-La has it, and you ask them, okay, what is it that you're doing? What are the 10 steps that you're putting in place? Are you allowing the room to be empty in between visitors? Are you cleaning more frequently? Some hotels are giving cleaning kits, so you don't have to have housekeeping come into your room. Some of them are having housekeeping come in more frequently. So I think it's really important to work with your partners on this. But this is definitely something that both the airlines and the hotel chains are dealing with very, very well, very comprehensively. We've all seen the images of the airlines in full PPE. I joke with my sister, who's a doctor in the UK, that the airline staff in Emirates have far more protective clothing than she does as a respiratory doctor. So I think that those are not things which you as a tourism board need to activate. I think you need to see what people are doing and work with your partners. There are agencies such as, for example, Abu Dhabi Department of Culture and Tourism. They've brought in a stamp of approval. So they've gone around the hotels in Abu Dhabi and they've said, okay, you're doing everything right, you're doing everything right. And I think that that's an option. But I think the most important thing is to work with your partners who are anyway doing this on a global level, and they've brought the world's best consultants in, and they're doing medical grade cleaning across their properties. And as long as you can ensure that somebody's hotel is nice and clean and somebody's airline is nice and clean, that I think that the safety aspect of things and the cleanliness aspect of things really takes care of itself.
Caroline, you've given us like a country view of what policymakers can do, what countries do. Tourism and travel is also a big employment generator. And when we look at a country like Oman, when you go to the airport today, it's a sad sight because you don't see as many taxis parked there. Hotels are almost shut down. You have a lot of tour guides. There are a lot of SMEs who into this space. Now, what is the way forward for them? What can they do?
Well, I think we need to take one step back, and this is what I've been alluding to so far in the conversation, is that once we've created that spark in somebody's mind that they want to come to Oman instead of Thailand or Zanzibar or anywhere else, we need to actually seal the deal, right? So we need to get the tourists to actually come to the country. And here it is that we look at what countries are doing to actually give a monetary incentive. So we now see a lot of countries around the world who are doing something to actually get the tourists to sign on the dotted line, and they know they want to come to Oman, but okay, that's a deal that I can't miss. I must hop on the plane right now. So I think we now need to move into looking at what incentives there are. So if you look at Sicily, Sicily was one of the first places, obviously Italy was one of the worst hit countries at the beginning of the pandemic, and Sicily is incredibly reliant on tourism. So they looked at bringing in a whole range of exciting monetary incentives to bring people into the country. So if you stay 3 nights, you get 1 additional night. There was talk of potential discounts on flights. They have opened up all museums and all historical sites to be free of charge. So that means that people actually say, yes, okay, I can move to the country. And let's not forget that people have lost their jobs, they've taken pay cuts, they're a little insecure about their future because the economy around the globe is not great at the moment. So we need to give people an incentive to move into these places. I have a few more examples as well of other countries who have incentives. So if we're looking closer to home, we can see RAK. So Ras Al Khaimah, which obviously for, let's say, an expatriate living in Dubai would be a good alternative to flying all the way to Oman. They can drive to RAK, right? It also has wide open spaces, it has mountains, it has beaches. So that might be attractive to people. What RAK Tourism have done is that if you stay for a minimum amount of nights, you get a free activity. So if I stay for at least 3 nights, I can go ziplining for free. If I stay for 4 nights, then my kids eat for free throughout the entire time. So there's a lot of these add-ons and small incentives and discounts. Japan as well is doing this. So you get a value of about $200 per tourist coming back in the form, again, of discounts, free nights, add-ons, upgrades, things that don't actually cost that much to the industry, but will really make people feel of value. And the brilliant thing about doing this sort of thing is that as you add on, let's say, an attraction, so let's say a tour or free entry to a certain place, you need a tour operator to take you there. You might need a guide. When you get there, you will probably buy your lunch. You'll maybe take a taxi to go there or hire a driver for the day. So these are the sort of things that get people out of the resorts and exploring the general surroundings and to really start giving back to the local economy. And so for me, I think that you have to have a 1-2 approach. You have to have that emotional spark in people's minds that makes them think of your country above all other countries that they could go into the rest of the world that are spending big on their tourism campaigns. And then you need to have that final decision maker. So it may be a special offer, it may be a special campaign, it may be, okay, if you come and see us before the end of the summer, we will give you this and this for free, or we'll extend your stay. So that's the kind of thing that actually seals the deal and gets people to make the decision. And those add-on events and activities are exactly what brings money back to the local economy. So that, for me, is the real focus moving forward.
Great. Before we let you go, Caroline, which are the top 3 destinations that you would like to visit once the lockdown and travel restrictions go?
I would love to come back to Oman. I think, I'm not sure if I mentioned, but I'm actually based in Riyadh, but I'm stuck in Dubai at the moment. And the reason for that is because I wanted to travel to Oman. So I went to Oman to see my university choir, which was the last concert that happened at the Oman Opera House. And I decided, okay, I have a free weekend, so I'll fly to Muscat, I'll watch the concert, and then I'll come back through Dubai and pack up my apartment ready to ship to Riyadh. And that was when the flight stopped. So I've been in Dubai ever since. So I certainly haven't explored enough of Oman. I've heard so much about the Kharif season, and I want to visit I would love nothing more than to be outside in the rain right now. Being stuck in Dubai and stuck it largely in the house, working from home. I think it would be a beautiful place to go. So that would be probably, and honestly speaking, probably my number one destination, because it's very close to get to. If there are changes in the circumstances, I can easily come to either Riyadh or Dubai, and I know that I'll be very safe there. So I think that's definitely top of my list. Other than that, I've recently fallen in love with Almaty in Kazakhstan. Which is again another place that has the great outdoors. You can go into the mountains, the people are incredibly friendly, and the food is very good. So I went there twice last year, and I'm looking forward to going there again. It's also a short flight, and I think that this is something that people are really considering now. I don't really want to be on a plane for 12 hours. I would prefer to go to somewhere that's maximum of 3 hours flight away. So I think that's very important. And other than that, probably the Maldives. I mean, there's nothing closer to nature than being on a desert island.
Great. I think Oman would be looking forward to welcoming people like you back to Oman. Caroline, thanks for sparing the time. It's been an utmost pleasure speaking to you. We hope to have you with us soon in the future, because this is an unfolding story and we will be watching it very closely.